When it comes to small subcompact SUVs, the segment really owes its existence to Subaru when the company introduced the experimental XV Crosstrek all the way back in 2012. Now, like so many other brands, Hyundai saw an opportunity to steal a piece of that pie with the introduction of their own small SUV, the Kona, way back in 2017. As you guys remember, the original Kona was a spunky little hot hatch disguised as an SUV that was loved by enthusiasts for its turbo engine and sporty handling. However, it didn't really quite have the space inside to appeal to a lot of families out there. Now for 2024, Hyundai is trying to fix those shortcomings with an all-new second-generation Kona. We've already had a chance to drive this vehicle out in Baltimore a couple months ago. However, this week Hyundai has loaned us the sportiest version for now. This one here is the 2024 Kona N-Line, and as you guys know, it's grown considerably in size on the outside, giving this vehicle way more interior space and more refinement versus its previous generation. So this week, we're going to put the Kona N-Line through our battery of tests. At the end of this video, we're going to see, has Hyundai managed to make enough changes to the all-new Kona to keep this model fresh? Stay tuned to find out. Now, before we start talking about all the exterior styling changes for this second generation Kona, let me go ahead and pop the hood and show you guys what's powering this thing. Now, in other markets, Hyundai offers a choice of 4 different powertrains. However, here in America, you can only take your pick between 3. Now today we're only going to be going over the top gas engine, which is standard on the N-Line and the Limited trim. This is the company's signature 1.6-liter gasoline direct injection turbocharged 4-cylinder. In this application here, it now makes 190 horsepower and 195 pound-feet of torque. The engine is technically carryover, although Hyundai says they've reworked some of the internals to improve the emissions of this vehicle, so it's a cleaner burning engine, but it did lose about 5 horsepower compared to the old 2023 model, which also had this same engine. If you guys go for the SE and SEL, you'll have a base 2-liter naturally aspirated engine making 147 horsepower. I haven't had a chance to drive that engine because Hyundai doesn't have the base powertrains in the press fleet. There also is a Kona electric model, which offers 2 different battery sizes and around up to 201 horsepower. That's a different review. Hyundai also offers a hybrid model in other markets, but for some reason they said that the hybrid is not coming to America. Hopefully they'll change their mind at a later date if we get more demand. Now it all goes out through an 8-speed automatic transmission. That's also the big change versus the previous generation, which had a 7-speed dual clutch. This 8-speed torque converter automatic should be much smoother and more refined. Front-wheel drive is going to be standard, but for $1,500, you can also add the company's HTRAC all-wheel drive system, which my test car has. In terms of the fuel efficiency, this N-Line version with the 19-inch wheels is rated to get 24 in the city, 29 on the highway. That's on regular gas. It has a 13.2-gallon fuel tank. You're looking at around 350 miles of range on a full tank, which is not bad. And in terms of the towing, this vehicle is an SUV, but sadly, Hyundai doesn't recommend that you tow with this vehicle, which is a ding because you can tow up to 3,500 pounds in something like the Crosstrek. Because this vehicle is so much larger, it now weighs a lot more. As this car sits, it weighs in and around just under 3,500 pounds. But let's go ahead and close up this hood and talk about the exterior styling of this all-new Kona, which, as you guys know, this vehicle is basically adopting the new design language that we've seen from other vehicles like the Hyundai Ioniq. It definitely has kind of like a RoboCop look to it at the front versus, or RoboCop meets Tron look to the front. This N-Line version is the sportier looking trim level of the Kona. It's technically not a replacement for the N, which Hyundai hasn't confirmed if the Kona N is coming back to the US just yet. Now you can see all Konas come standard with this kind of LED daytime running light that kind of spans across the entire front end of the vehicle. You have the newer Hyundai logo. My tester is painted in this shade called Ecotronic Gray. It's a metallic color that has these metallic sparkles in the actual paint. They look nice. All Konas also come standard with LED headlights, which include LED low and high beams. But as you can see, the N-Line has an incandescent turn signal. It's kind of like an LED combination. If you guys are looking at the Limited trim, you'll have a full LED headlight with an LED turn signal. There are active grille shutters here at the front with this kind of newer Hyundai corporate grille. No fog lights on the vehicle, but you do have some functional vents and you have some parking sensors. But my tester does not have the parking sensors or the 360 camera because that's exclusive, I believe, to the Limited trim. But overall, moving around the side profile, this is still a very small SUV, but Hyundai substantially made this vehicle larger this year by stretching the overall length to 172.6 inches long. The N line is actually about an inch, a little over an inch longer than the actual other trim levels of the Kona because of the body kit. This is about 6.6 inches longer than the previous generation, which is going to give us way more interior space. Its wheelbase is 104.7. That's 2 inches longer, and this is also about an inch wider than the previous generation, which again, all of that is going to translate into more interior space. Now looking at the wheels, these are the exclusive 19-inch wheels that you get on the N line, which have kind of like a two-tone machine graphite gray painted inner pockets with a directional design. It's riding on a 235 by 45 R19 tire. These are a Kumo Majesty 9 all-season tire. Don't love the tires, but that's something you can swap out. You have an independent front suspension, while if you go for the front drive models, you'll have a torsion beam, semi-independent rear. However, all-wheel drive will give you a multi-link independent rear, so that's another reason to go with all-wheel drive. The N-Line also kind of body colors a lot of the cladding. On other trims, you'll have it be unpainted. There's also an N-Line badge here. Remember, this is just a sportier looking trim, not actually a high performance trim. You also get these integrated turn signal mirrors with black painted mirrors. The N-Line also comes standard with this ultra wide style sunroof. Not a full panel roof, but it is nice that it's bigger than a standard one. You also have these kind of black painted, or these black roof rails along with the black trim along the window trim, which gives it again a sportier look. It looks good in this gray exterior color, this Ecotronic gray, but Hyundai also offers two-tone colors if you'd like, where you can get a black roof with a lower body trim, or you can also get a bright red or an orange color, I believe. So I like the fact that Hyundai is kind of being playful with the colors. Now looking at the rear of the vehicle, you can see that kind of Tron meets a RoboCop look is accentuated here at the rear with a full-length LED taillight. You can see the taillight is actually an LED. However, it's a combination design on the N-Line where you have incandescence for the reverse lights and the turn signal down here, whereas on the limited trim, it'll be a full LED. In other markets I saw, like in the Canadian market, the N-Line has full LED headlights, so I'm really sad to see that Hyundai kind of decontented it slightly for the US. Now, I do love this rear spoiler that you get on the N-Line. This is exclusive to this trim, along with the full LED high-mounted rear reverse light. You can see there's Kona badging back here with the HTRAC badge. This is how you're going to know that you have an all-wheel drive model, is that HTRAC badge along with the 1.6T. And then you can see here the N-Line also has this sporty dual outlet exhaust system, which is technically a single outlet with twin pipes. I like how it's chrome tipped. It definitely gives this thing a more sportier edge to it. This is the only trim to get that rear bumper diffuser, which extends the overall length by an inch, and that sportier looking exhaust system. Now looking at the cargo area, if you guys want a power liftgate, Hyundai offers it as standard on the limited trim. However, all the other trims like this N-Line have a manual liftgate, which is kind of annoying, but most vehicles in the segment don't actually have a power liftgate except if you go for the highest trims. And this is where you're going to find so much more practicality in this new Kona. Because of the increase in the size, Hyundai was able to expand the rear cargo area by 5 cubic feet. So you have 25.2 cubic feet of storage space with the second row seats up. You can see I have the rear cargo shelf here kind of lodged into this little portion where you can kind of move it out of the way, or you can kind of put it up here if you'd like and have it connected to the actual tailgate where it'll open up. There is a little bit of underfloor storage here along with a temporary spare tire, which is nice. If you fold down that second row seat, which again, you can kind of store this right here. If you fold down the second row seat, Hyundai says it expands it out to around 63 cubic feet of space. 63 cubic feet is nearly 20 more cubic feet than the old Kona, and this offers roughly 10 more cubic feet versus the maximum amount in the Crosstrek. So again, if you're looking for a subcompact SUV that offers near compact levels of actual cargo space, you should now put the new Kona at the very top of your list. So let's go ahead and talk about the all-new interior for this second generation Hyundai Kona. Before we get inside, however, let me show you guys the key fob. Just like the new Hyundai Ioniq 6, you can see the Kona has the newer Hyundai fob, which has this kind of weird egg-shaped look to it. However, if you flip it over and look at the buttons and put it on its side, you can see it's actually the Hyundai logo here, which is very clever. It's an interesting design. You have your usual buttons here for lock, unlock, remote start, and you also have your panic function. If you go for the limited trim, you also get the company's Smart Park feature, which on the N-Line, it doesn't have that feature where you can remotely move forward and back the vehicle. Now you can see traditional door handles here. If I touch this little sensor portion, that locks the door. No power folding mirrors. This vehicle doesn't offer an auto walk-away lock or unlock feature. I'm surprised to see that Hyundai doesn't do that, but you can see, touch the back of the door handle and that will unlock the door for you. You can see my tester with this Ecotronic gray has this kind of two-tone black interior with the contrasting red stitching. This is exclusive to the N line, where you have the faux leather with the Alcantara with the red accents. It's a nice looking interior, but I wish Hyundai would offer like a red interior or a light gray interior. If you want a lighter interior color, you have to step to a different trim. The N line only comes with this black interior, which, by the way, the driver's seat here is an 8-way power adjustment. You have three level heated seats in the front, but if you're looking for ventilated seats, you have to go to the limited trim. Hyundai also does not offer memory seats on this car, which doesn't surprise me. It's on the low end of the totem pole. Now, in terms of the door panel materials, you can see it has a hard touch injection molded plastic. This is a hard touch here, which is a little disappointing. You do have the nice kind of leather, fake leather material here and here where you'd rest your elbow. Window controls, they feel pretty high quality. Only the driver window is one touch up, down, however. Every other window is not one touch, which is a little disappointing. Down here you can see it's hard touch plastics, a little bit of storage here. And then my test car also has the Bose premium stereo system. For you guys who are an audiophile, it's standard equipment on the N-line version. Now, as I get inside, you have around 8.3 inches of ground clearance on this car, which is a pretty good amount of ground clearance. But once I get in, you can see you have a nice, easy, step-in height, and this vehicle gives you some great first impressions when you get in. Now, as I get in and shut the door has a relatively solid-sounding thunk, which is nice. And then when you want to start the vehicle up, start-stop button is right here where you'd expect it to be. And then you can see once the vehicle starts up, it has a really good amount of technology, especially with all trims basically coming standard with a 12.3-inch display. The lower trims will have a 4.2-inch display, although the N-line comes standard with a 12.3-inch digital instrument panel. So you have two 12.3-inch displays. Again, that gives it among the best tech in the segment, which is definitely something to check out this vehicle for. Now, in terms of dashboard materials, you can see this is hard touch plastic over here, which kind of has a cheaper feel. I like the red trim that kind of extends throughout the dash. You have this nice little parcel shelf here where you can store a few things. You have some aluminum look trim. The steering wheel, you can see, is exclusive to the N-line, where it's a sportier looking wheel. You have kind of a thicker bolstering extension. You have a contrasting red stitching along with the perforation. You also have the new Hyundai logo here, which is logo-less. Instead, you have the 4 dots here, which means H in Morse code. This does not light up like you find in something like the Ioniq 6. The N-line also includes paddle shifters on the wheel. You have a manual tilt telescoping adjustment, which offers a good amount of adjustability and range. You can get comfortable pretty easily in this car. The horn sounds good. It doesn't sound puny and pathetic like something like the Toyota Corolla Cross. And then you also have your usual stalks here for your turn signals, wipers. The transmission selector is right here on the column, just like on the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and Ioniq 6. If I twist it back toward me, that's how I go into reverse. Push it forward to go into drive. You can see there's your backup camera, which offers a good amount of clarity. If you want a 360 camera, you're going to have to go to the unlimited trim. It's not available, of course, on this N-line version. Now, down here you can see you have 2 USB-C charging ports. You can also kind of change that to just a USB if you like, or you can go to a USB connection where you can plug in your phone. You can see once I switched it back to that, my phone gets connected and I've got CarPlay and Android Auto. It's a wired connection, however. Wireless is coming in an over-the-air software update, which my test car doesn't have just yet. If you guys have the lower trims, however, you have wireless CarPlay, but you can see the bigger screen here has basically has the wired connection for CarPlay. You have dual zone climate control, and then down here you can see your drive mode selector where you can cycle between a normal, a sport, and a snow mode. And then you also have a 4-wheel drive lock system where you can lock the system in a 50-50 torque split. That button here brings up the backup camera, and you can see a lot of empty buttons here because the ventilated seats are not available on this trim. So again, the limited gives you all the bells and whistles. You do have a wireless phone charging pad here, and then you have a nice little useful center console area where you have these kind of adjustable cup holders which you can kind of fold away to give you a big center console area. Push that, it makes the cup holders reappear, and then you can see padded center console here with a decent amount of storage, although it's not really covered storage. That's something that you'll find in some competitors. But I like how Hyundai kind of gives you the flexibility here, which is nice. The Hyundai latest software here, you can see, also includes over-the-air updates. And it also has this new feature called Hyundai CarPay, which is technically not supported in the US just yet, where you can basically use your car basically like you use your Apple Pay to pay for stuff with your car instead of using your phone. So haven't had a chance to try it, but I think it's a lot of cool technology that Hyundai is throwing in to a lot of their newer vehicles. This vehicle also comes with factory embedded GPS, which, as you can see, a lot of brands are slowly getting rid of the factory GPS. It's nothing super fancy, but it's nice to see that it's still here. Most of you are probably going to end up using the CarPlay anyways and just using the GPS built into your phone, which is something that a lot of people actually tend to use mostly. You can see the seats, like I mentioned earlier, they are pretty comfortable and supportive. I love the Alcantara look. The heated seat function works well. This is just a manual passenger seat. Again, I just wish that Hyundai would offer a different color interior, especially on the N-Line trim. You do have some LED map lighting. This big or bigger panoramic style sunroof, you can see, has a power retractable shade. It also allows you to open it up just over the front seats. Obviously, it also has a tilt function, which is nice. And then if you look at the glove box here, you can see it's a bin style. It's damped, but not lined with felt. So overall, the interior definitely makes a great first impression. It's wonderful in terms of tech. The gauge cluster also kind of changes the way it looks when you switch between the drive modes. You can also go into a simpler mode where it'll just give you a digital readout for the tach and the speedo. I prefer the more classic look, but overall, I think Hyundai has done a really good job with this interior, and it feels spacious, but it also feels really open and airy. But let's go ahead and take a look at the back seat, because this is an area where Hyundai, again, made some crucial improvements this year. If I open up the door, you can see the back seat space has been improved by 5 inches of legroom. So Hyundai says there's around 38.5 inches of legroom back here. That gives this about 2 more inches of legroom versus the Crosstrek. Remember, it has 5 more inches versus something like a Corolla Cross Hybrid or a Corolla Cross or the old Kona. You can see door panel materials back here are hard touch plastic. It is padded here where you'd rest your elbow. A little bit of storage here, which is nice. The seats, obviously, they fold down in a 60/40 manner via just this little lever here. You can see when you fold it down, it creates almost a flat floor. It doesn't offer a recline function, and this car doesn't offer heated rear seats, which doesn't surprise me considering the price class. But you can see once I get back here, you can see the legroom space. This is where I'd have the seat to drive. For somebody my height, 5'7", there's a plenty of legroom. There is a hump here that intrudes on the middle passenger. At least you do get USB ports back here, 2 of them, along with rear seat air vents. You get 1 storage cubby on that driver or passenger seat back. And then if you fold this down, you can see there's an armrest with 2 cup holders, which is nice. And then in terms of the headroom space, the sunroof does take up space, but for somebody my height, there's a good amount of space back here. So again, if you need a small SUV that's small on the outside but big on the inside with mid-size to compact levels of space back here, the new Hyundai Kona is definitely at the top of the class in terms of rear seat legroom. So here we are back in the all-new, totally redesigned 2024 Hyundai Kona. It's been a couple months since we first had a chance to drive this vehicle, and as you guys know, the subcompact SUV segment continues to explode in popularity. The Subaru Crosstrek was the best-selling vehicle in this segment in America, selling about 155,000 units in 2022. So Hyundai clearly wants a piece of that pie, and they're going to try to do it, of course, with this all-new Kona. Now, the one thing about this N-Line model, the one that we're driving, is it's the HTRAC all-wheel drive version, which means we have a 190 horsepower turbocharged 1.3 liter or 1.6 liter 4-cylinder with a new 8-speed auto. Now, the combination of this should give you, in theory, better acceleration and performance. However, this car did get about 300 pounds heavier. The last time I 0 to 60 tested it during the first drive was I got 7.6 seconds. So let's see what we can get this time on my usual stretch of road here. We'll brake torque it. It's in sport mode. 7.3 seconds, which is a smidge faster than what I got in this car 2 months ago when I tested it out in that brief first drive just north of Baltimore. But I have to say 7.3 is perfectly acceptable. In fact, in the class of vehicle, this is considered to be a little bit faster because, as you guys know, you could look at something like the Subaru Crosstrek with the base 2-liter, which is probably around a second and a half slower. The 2.5 engine in the Crosstrek should be pretty similar to this, although I feel like it's still a bit slower. The Toyota Corolla Cross Hybrid is the speed king at 7.1 seconds, but this is going to be perfectly adequate acceleration. What's beautiful about the new transmission, it is a great deal smoother versus the old dual clutch, even if it isn't quite as quick compared to that transmission. But let's try it here. This time I'm not going to brake torque it. This 1.6 has definitely gotten a lot more refined in this new generation. 7.9 there, so this is with it more slightly uphill versus me brake torquing it. Most of you aren't going to brake torque it, so I imagine in the real world you're going to do in the upper 7s, just a smidge under 8 seconds, which is perfectly acceptable. This thing has plenty of power. Sadly, I haven't had a chance to drive the 2-liter engine with the IVT, the continuously variable transmission, because Hyundai doesn't have the base SE or SEL in the press fleet. Remember, if you guys go for the N-Line or the limited trim, you're going to get this 1.6 turbo, which I think is a wonderful powertrain. This vehicle has plenty of power. The transmission is smooth, and it's relatively refined in getting, you know, shifting gears and putting the engine in the meat of the power band. In fact, this 1.6 has gotten so refined, it almost doesn't feel turbocharged, which is kind of crazy to think how the old one had a lot of turbo lag. This one, I tried the manual mode here. Let's try flooring it. It's definitely like not a quick shifting transmission, but it's, you know, not designed to be a performance transmission. And the paddles are here on the N-Line version if you guys want to take control. It does do a good job of downshifting, rev matching your downshifts. But what shocks me though is how much softer the suspension is on this car. The old Kona was almost like a hot hatch. It had a very stiff riding suspension. Now we are driving the HTRAC model, which has the multi-link independent rear suspension, but you can tell Hyundai has designed this car to be more of a grown-up car. It has a much softer ride quality. It's much more, or it's much quieter on the inside. It's more refined. And then with the all-wheel drive system, it can, you know, send power to the outside wheel when you need the additional acceleration. This little graph here tells you where the power is going. Most of the times it behaves more like a front drive car until the slippage is detected, or if you're driving more aggressively, it can send the power side to side. It's a really good all-wheel drive system. This car also offers around 8.3 inches of ground clearance. I have very little complaints with the driving dynamics along with the visibility. This car is really easy to see out of, front, rear, sides. There's no digital camera review mirror, but if you guys go for the limited trim, if you signal left and right, you'll have the blind view cameras, which typically Hyundai has reserved that for, you know, the highest trim level vehicles. So it's nice to see them kind of throwing in, you know, that high-tech stuff even on their lower models. I mean, Hyundai's kind of been, you know, sprinkling the technology features, even putting it on their lower trim, you know, more affordable models. So it's kind of a great thing to see them doing that. Now, making this turn here, this car feels really nimble. It feels really small. I switched it back into normal mode. So you definitely feel the extra mid-range torque. Compared to the Subaru Crosstrek's engine, which is naturally aspirated, this engine offers a good range of mid-range torque. Around 3,000 RPM, you can feel that additional, you know, 195 pound-feet of torque. That's 20 more, almost 20 more pound-feet of torque than even the 2.5 in the Crosstrek. This car does weigh more. It's around just under 3,500 pounds, and it definitely feels a little bit softer sprung. I don't know if I feel the weight. This car is also a little over 6.5 inches longer than the old Kona. It still feels small. It still feels, you know, easy to drive, fun to drive. And this car is surprisingly good. I mean, I'm hoping Hyundai will eventually do the N version again. I would like to see them bring back the N and give it all-wheel drive. It's really what held the N back. But really, I'm just surprised. The N-Line has also some relatively comfortable and supportive seats. These are kind of like the combination of the fake leather with the Alcantara. It's a good seat. Has a little bit more aggressive bolstering extension. I've got the lane keep assist on. This car comes standard with their driver assistance package, which includes full speed range adaptive cruise control, traffic jam assistance, active lane keep assist, all that stuff. There's a lot of great tech in this car. In fact, I love the way the infotainment system looks. I love the fact that I've got this massive 12.3 inch display, two 12.3 inch displays. So in terms of tech, the Kona has the best tech in the industry. Sadly, still no wireless Apple CarPlay on the bigger screen, but Hyundai has promised that it's coming in an over-the-air update at a later date. We're still kind of a little bit too early to find the over-the-air update available yet for that wireless CarPlay. So let me know in the comment section below if you guys have this car and it now finally has the wireless CarPlay. But overall, I'm impressed. I like the refinement, I like the smoothness, I like the space. It's a really damn practical car. And that's kind of where the old Kona fell short, is it felt a little bit too small. It felt a little bit too skimpy. It just didn't feel like a decent family car because it was just too small and cramped on the inside. Now, in terms of fuel efficiency, I want to briefly talk about that because this is where the Kona's efficiency went down by 3 mpg on paper compared to the previous generation. You can blame the 8-speed auto, you can blame the additional 300 pounds of weight, and this engine has been tuned for better emissions, cleaner emissions. Now, in my week's worth of testing, I averaged around 25 mpg in my mixed driving. On a full tank, this will do around 350 miles of range, which is perfectly acceptable. It has a 13.2 gallon fuel tank. On the highway, this car did better than the EPA's number of 29. I was able to do 32, 33 mpg when you have it in normal mode and you're driving it efficiently. So that's pretty good gas mileage. So I'm happy to report that it's getting better gas mileage in my real world testing versus the EPA, because those EPA EPA numbers are like average to slightly below average. In fact, the number here on this model at 2425 is pretty similar to a Crosstrek Wilderness, which is the lifted version with the all-terrain tires. It's also pretty similar to the Honda HR-V. Remember, the HR-V offers like 30 less horsepower or 40 less horsepower than this car. So there is something to be said about this new Kona. I think Hyundai has done a really good job at addressing the faults of the previous generation. Is this car perfect? No. I mean, I would love to see them offer the hybrid powertrain that you can get in the Niro, for example, in this car. This is riding on the same platform as the Niro. I would like to see the N-Line also come with the ventilated seats and a different interior color versus this trim. They also kind of cheap out and they don't give you the actual full LED headlights. You have the combination LED headlights and taillights on this trim, whereas in other markets you get the full LEDs. But overall, I think this car is a strong value, and I also think that Hyundai should consider doing an off-roady version called the XRT. They have that branding already on other trims, so I imagine Hyundai's probably working on it considering the success of the Subaru Crosstrek. But overall, if you guys are looking for a small SUV that can actually do double duty as being small on the outside, nimble to drive around urban environments, and still have enough space for your family, you should definitely be putting this brand new Hyundai Kona at the top of your list. Now, even though the first generation Hyundai Kona was a lot smaller on the outside and inside, this ended up being one of Hyundai's top selling vehicles, with the company at one point selling about 90,000 units for the entire year here in America. That was back in 2021. In 2022, Hyundai did around 64,000 units. Now, that is a far cry versus the 155,000 units that Subaru did in terms of Crosstrek sales in 2022 here in America. So with this all new version of the Kona with much more interior space, much more technology, a lot more refinement, I wouldn't be surprised to see Hyundai basically double that number here in the US when they finally ramp up production of these and we move on to the full model year of this all new second generation. Because as you guys saw, in terms of living with this vehicle for a full week, this car is ridiculously practical, it's ridiculously easy to drive, and it's also a very refined vehicle that offers, you know, near compact to mid-size levels of space in the back seat to compact levels of space in the cargo area, which is great considering how small the footprint is on the outside still. Even though this car did lose a little bit of that sporty edge compared to the prior generation, I think that's kind of a nice change that Hyundai has made, because for the type of person who's going to buy this vehicle, they're going to be okay with giving up a little of the sportiness for the additional practicality. The technology in this car is a huge upgrade. I love the fact that we have the biggest infotainment system in the business, or in the segment, with 12.3-inch dual 12.3-inch displays. I'm sad to see that wireless CarPlay is still not included on this top trim, but that is coming, as I said earlier, in an over-the-air update, which I'm sure Hyundai will be implementing as we move into the new calendar year. Really, where the Kona does fall short is in the fuel efficiency. This is average to slightly below average fuel efficiency, although I did see slightly better numbers in my real-world testing versus the actual EPA numbers. I really want to see Hyundai add the hybrid powertrain that you can get in other markets into the US portfolio, because I think the hybrid powertrain would not only expand their sales, but again, give this car a little bit of an edge in terms of the fuel efficiency. Currently, the only model in the segment with a hybrid powertrain is the Corolla Cross Hybrid, which has a good powertrain, but the Corolla Cross in general has a really dated infotainment system. At least it's small in terms of the size, and it also has less interior space versus the Kona and a lot less cargo space. But I also would like to see Hyundai eventually offer an off-road version called the XRT. I wouldn't be surprised to see if the company was working on it, because if you guys are looking in this space and you're considering a Subaru Crosstrek, which I know most of you probably are, you should definitely be putting this one at the very top of your list. And the other thing you're gonna be surprised to see is the Kona still remains a relatively affordable vehicle. You can get one of these for the base SE version at around $24,000, which is around the same starting price as a Subaru Crosstrek. Now, most of you are gonna add all-wheel drive for $1,500. The Crosstrek technically comes standard with all-wheel drive, which is where the Subaru is a little bit less expensive. This N-Line version that I'm showing you starts at just under $31,000. With front-wheel drive, again, you need to add $1,500 for all-wheel drive. There are really no options to add my tester with all-wheel drive and the destination charge and a couple of small accessories. This model here comes to $33,495, so just under $34,000. I know that is more expensive versus something like a Honda HR-V or the previous generation, but I'd argue that there's a ton more technology and space and practicality here, so it's kind of justifying that price increase. If you guys want even more tech, if you want like the blind view camera, the ventilated seats, the full LED lighting around, the power liftgate, the surround view camera, you're going to want to step it up to the limited grade, which the limited is around $1,500 $100 more. I think that's still a worthy upcharge. I mean, all in, you can spend around 35 grand for a Kona Limited with all-wheel drive. That's still a screaming deal, and it's about the same price as the Subaru Crosstrek, but what you get here is a car with more interior space, more trunk space, not as much capability off-road, but a lot more technology on the inside, and you also get that stepped automatic with a turbo engine. If that's something that matters to you, you should definitely be putting this one at the top of your list. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2024 Hyundai Kona N-Line. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.